Chapter 9 of the Legends of King Arthur and His Knights, by James Knowles. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 9 The Adventures of Sir Launcelot du Lac. Then at the following Pentecost was held a feast at the Round Table at Caerleon with high splendour, and all the knights thereof resorted to the court, and held many games and jousts. And therein Sir Launcelot increased in fame and worship above all men, for he overthrew all comers, and never was unhorsed or worsted save by treason and enchantment. When Queen Guinevere had seen his wondrous feats, she held him in great favour, and smiled more on him than on any other knight. And ever since he first had gone to bring her to King Arthur, had Launcelot thought on her as the fairest of all ladies, and done his best to win her grace. So the queen often sent for him, and bade him tell of his birth and strange adventures, how he was only son of great King Ban of Brittany, and how one night his father, with his mother Helen and himself, fled from his burning castle; how his father, groaning deeply, fell to the ground and died of grief and wounds; and how his mother, running to her husband, left himself alone; how, as he thus lay wailing, came the Lady of the Lake, and took him in her arms, and went with him into the midst of the waters, where with his cousins Lionel and Bors he had been cherished all his childhood, until he came to King Arthur's court; and how this was the reason why men called him Launcelot du Lac. Anon it was ordained by King Arthur that in every year at Pentecost there should be held a festival of all the knights of the Round Table at Caerleon, or such other place as he should choose; and at those festivals should be told publicly the most famous adventures of any knight during the past year. So when Sir Launcelot saw Queen Guinevere rejoiced to hear his wanderings and adventures, he resolved to set forth yet again, and win more worship still, that he might more increase her favour. Then he bade his cousin Sir Lionel make ready. "For," said he, "we two will seek adventure." So they mounted their horses, armed at all points, and rode into a vast forest. And when they had passed through it, they came to a great plain, and the weather being very hot about noontide, Sir Launcelot greatly longed to sleep. Then Sir Lionel espied a great apple tree standing by a hedge, and said, "Brother, yonder is a fair shadow where we may rest ourselves and our horses." "I am full glad of it," said Sir Launcelot, "for all these 7 years I have not been so sleepy." So they alighted there, and tied their horses up to sundry trees, and Sir Lionel waked and watched, while Sir Launcelot fell asleep, and slept passing fast. In the meanwhile came 3 knights, riding as fast flying as ever they could ride, and after them followed a single knight; but when Sir Lionel looked at him, he thought he had never seen so great and strong a man, or so well furnished and apparelled. Anon he saw him overtake the last of those who fled, and smite him to the ground. Then came he to the second, and smote him such a stroke that horse and man went to the earth. Then rode he to the third likewise, and struck him off his horse more than a spear's length. With that he lighted from his horse, and bound all 3 knights fast with the reins of their own bridles. When Sir Lionel saw this, he thought the time was come to prove himself against him. So quietly and cautiously, lest he should wake Sir Launcelot, he took his horse and mounted, and rode after him. Presently overtaking him, he cried aloud for him to turn, which instantly he did, and smote Sir Lionel so hard that horse and man went down forthwith. Then took he up Sir Lionel, and threw him bound over his own horse's back, and so he served the 3 other knights, and rode them away to his own castle. There they were disarmed, stripped naked, and beaten with thorns, and afterwards thrust into a deep prison, where many more knights also made great moans and lamentations, saying, Alas, alas, there is no man can help us but Sir Launcelot, for no other knight can match this tyrant Turquine, our conqueror." But all this while Sir Lancelot lay sleeping soundly under the apple tree, and as it chanced, there passed that way 4 queens of high estate, riding upon 4 white mules, under 4 canopies of green silk, borne on spears to keep them from the sun. As they rode thus, they heard a great horse grimly neigh, and turning them about, soon saw a sleeping knight that lay all armed under an apple tree. And when they saw his face, they knew it was Lancelot of the Lake. Then they began to strive which of them should have the care of him. But Queen Morgan le Fay, King Arthur's half sister, the great sorceress, was one of them, and said, "We need not strive for him. I have enchanted him so that for 6 hours more he shall not wake. Let us take him to my castle, and when he wakes, himself shall choose which one of us he would rather serve." So Sir Lancelot was laid upon his shield, and borne on horseback between 2 knights to the castle, and there laid in a cold chamber till the spell should pass. Anon they sent him a fair damsel bearing his supper, who asked him, "What cheer?" "I cannot tell, fair damsel," said he, "for I know not how I came into this castle, if it were not by enchantment." "Sir," said she, "be of good heart, and to morrow at the dawn of day ye shall know more." And so she left him alone, and there he lay all night. In the morning early came the 4 queens to him, passing richly dressed, and said, "Sir knight, thou must understand that thou art our prisoner, and that we know thee well for King Ban's son, Sir Lancelot du Lake. And though we know full well there is one lady only in this world may have thy love, and she Queen Guinevere, King Arthur's wife, yet now are we resolved to have thee serve one of us. Choose therefore of us 4 which thou wilt serve. I am Queen Morgan le Fay, queen of the land of Gore. And here also is the Queen of North Gales, and the Queen of Eastland, and the Queen of the Out Isles. Choose then at once, for else shall thou abide here in this prison till thy death." "It is a hard case," said Sir Lancelot, "that either I must die, or choose one of you for my mistress. Yet had I rather die in this prison than serve any living creature against my will, so take this for my answer, I will serve none of ye, for ye be false enchantresses. And as for my lady Queen Guinevere, whom lightly ye have spoken of, were I at liberty I would prove it upon you or upon yours, she is the truest lady living to her lord the king." "Well," said the queen, "is this your answer, that you refuse us all?" "Yea, on my life," said Lancelot, "refused ye be of me." So they departed from him in great wrath, and left him sorrowfully grieving in his dungeon. At noon the damsel came to him and brought his dinner, and asked him as before, "What cheer?" "Truly, fair damsel," said Sir Lancelot, "in all my life never so ill." "Sir," replied she, "I grieve to see ye so, but if ye do as I advise, I can help ye out of this distress, and will do so if you promise me a boon." "Fair damsel," said Sir Lancelot, "right willingly will I grant it thee, for sorely do I dread these 4 witch queens, who have destroyed and slain many a good knight with their enchantments." Then said the damsel, "Sir, wilt thou promise me to help my father on next Tuesday, for he hath a tournament with the King of North Gales, and last Tuesday lost the field through 3 knights of King Arthur's court who came against him. And if next Tuesday thou wilt aid him, to morrow before daylight, by God's grace, I will deliver thee." "Fair maiden," said Sir Lancelot, "tell me thy father's name, and I will answer thee." "My father is King Bagdemagus." "I know him well," replied Sir Lancelot, "for a noble king and a good knight, and by the faith of my body I will do him all the service I am able on that day." "Gramercy to thee, Sir knight," said the damsel. "To morrow, when thou art delivered from this place, ride 10 miles hence unto an abbey of white monks, and there abide until I bring my father to thee." "So be it," said Sir Lancelot, "as I am a true knight." So she departed, and on the morrow early came again, and let him out of 12 gates differently locked, and brought him to his armour. And when he was all armed, she brought him his horse also, and lightly he saddled him, and took a great spear in his hand, and mounted and rode forth, saying as he went, "Fair damsel, I shall not fail thee, by the grace of God." And all that day he rode in a great forest, and could find no highway, and spent the night in the woods, but the next morning found his road, and came to the abbey of white monks. And there he saw King Bagdemagus and his daughter waiting for him. So when they were together in a chamber, Sir Lancelot told the king how he had been betrayed by an enchantment, and how his brother Lionel was gone he knew not where, and how the damsel had delivered him from the castle of Queen Morgan le Fay. "Wherefore, while I live," said he, "I shall do service to herself and all her kindred." "Then I am sure of thy aid," said the king, "on Tuesday now next coming." "Yea, sir, I shall not fail thee," said Sir Lancelot. "But what knights were they who last week defeated thee, and took part with the King of North Gales?" "Sir Mador de la Porte, Sir Modred, and Sir Gahalatine," replied the king. "Sir," said Sir Lancelot, "as I understand, the tournament shall take place but 3 miles from this abbey. Send then to me here 3 knights of thine, the best thou hast, and let them all have plain white shields, such as I also will. Then will we 4 come suddenly into the midst between both parties, and fall upon thy enemies, and grieve them all we can, and none will know us who we are." So on the Tuesday Sir Lancelot and the 3 knights lodged themselves in a small grove hard by the lists. Then came into the field the King of North Gales with 160 helms, and the 3 knights of King Arthur's court, who stood apart by themselves. And when King Bagdemagus had arrived with 80 helms, both companies set all their spears in rest, and came together in a mighty clash, wherein were slain 12 knights of King Bagdemagus, and 6 of the King of North Gales, and the party of King Bagdemagus was driven back. With that came Sir Lancelot, and thrust into the thickest of the press, and smote down with one spear 5 knights, and brake the backs of 4, and cast down the King of North Gales, and brake his thigh by the fall. When the 3 knights of Arthur's court saw this, they rode at Sir Lancelot, and each after other attacked him. But he overthrew them all, and smote them nigh to death. Then taking a new spear, he bore down to the ground 16 more knights, and hurt them all so sorely that they could carry arms no more that day. And when his spear at length was broken, he took yet another, and smote down 12 knights more, and most of whom he wounded mortally, till in the end the party of the King of North Gales would joust no more, and the victory was cried to King Bagdemagus. Then Sir Lancelot rode forth with King Bagdemagus to his castle, and there he feasted with great cheer and welcome, and received many royal gifts. And on the morrow he took leave, and went to find his brother Lionel. Anon, by chance, he came to the same forest where the 4 queens had found him sleeping, and there he met a damsel riding on a white palfrey. When they had saluted each other, Sir Lancelot said, "Fair damsel, knowest thou where any adventures may be had in this country?" "Sir knight," said she, "there are adventures great enough close by, if thou darest prove them." "Why should I not?" said he, "since for that cause I came here." "Sir," said the damsel, "hard by this place there dwelleth a knight that cannot be defeated by any man, so great and perilously strong he is. His name is Sir Turquine, and in the prisons of his castle lie 80 knights and 4, mostly from King Arthur's court, whom he hath taken with his own hands. But promise me, ere thou undertakest their deliverance, to go and help me afterward, and free me and many other ladies that are distressed by a false knight." "Bring me but to this felon Turquine," quoth Sir Lancelot, "and I will afterwards fulfil all your wishes." So the damsel went before, and brought him to a ford, and a tree whereon a great brass basin hung, and Sir Lancelot beat with his spear end upon the basin long and hard, until he beat the bottom of it out, but he saw nothing. Then he rode to and fro before the castle gates for wellnigh half an hour, and anon saw a great knight riding from the distance, driving a horse before him, across which hung an armed man, bound. And when they came near, Sir Lancelot knew the prisoner for a knight of the Round Table. By that time the great knight who drove the prisoner saw Sir Lancelot, and each of them began to settle his spear and to make ready. "Fair sir," then said Sir Lancelot, "put off that wounded knight, I pray thee, from his horse, and let him rest, while thou and I shall prove our strength upon each other; for, as I am told, thou doest and hast done great shame and injury to knights of the Round Table. Wherefore I warn thee now, defend thyself." "If thou mayest be of the Round Table," answered Turquine, "I defy thee and all thy fellows." "That is saying overmuch," said Sir Lancelot. Then setting their lances in rest, they spurred their horses towards each other as fast as they could go, and smote so fearfully upon each other's shields that both their horses' backs brake under them. As soon as they could clear their saddles, they took their shields before them, and drew their swords, and came together eagerly, and fought with great and grievous strokes, and soon they both had many grim and fearful wounds, and bled in streams. Thus they fought 2 hours and more, thrusting and smiting at each other wherever they could hit. Anon they both were breathless, and stood leaning on their swords. "Now, comrade," said Sir Turquine, "let us wait a while, and answer me what I shall ask thee." "Say on," said Lancelot. "Thou art," said Turquine, "the best man I ever met, and seemest like one that I hate above all other knights that live. But if thou be not he, I will make peace with thee, and for the sake of thy great valour will deliver all the 80 prisoners and 4 who lie within my dungeons, and thou and I will be companions evermore. Tell me, then, thy name." "Thou sayest well," replied Sir Lancelot. "But who is he thou hatest so above all others?" "His name," said Turquine, "is Sir Lancelot of the Lake, and he slew my brother Sir Carados at the Dolorous Tower. Wherefore, if ever I shall meet with him, one of us two shall slay the other, and thereto I have sworn by a great oath. And to discover and destroy him I have slain 100 knights, and crippled utterly as many more, and many have died in my prisons. And now, as I have told thee, I have many more therein, who all shall be delivered, if thou tell me thy name, and it be not Sir Lancelot." "Well," said Lancelot, "I am that knight, son of King Ban of Benwick, and knight of the Round Table, so now I defy thee to do thy best." "Ha, ha!" said Turquine with a shout. "Is it then so at last? Thou art more welcome to my sword than ever knight or lady was to feast, for never shall we part till one of us be dead." Then did they hurtle together like 2 wild bulls, slashing and lashing with their shields and swords, and sometimes falling both on to the ground. For 2 more hours they fought so, and at last Sir Turquine grew very faint, and gave a little back, and bare his shield full low for weariness. When Sir Lancelot saw him thus, he leaped upon him fiercely as a lion, and took him by the crest of his helmet, and dragged him to his knees, and then he tore his helmet off, and smote his neck asunder. Then he arose and went to the damsel who had brought him to Sir Turquine, and said, "I am ready, fair lady, to go with thee upon thy service, but I have no horse." "Fair sir," said she, take ye this horse of the wounded knight whom Turquine but just now was carrying to his prisons, and send that knight on to deliver all the prisoners." So Sir Lancelot went to the knight and prayed him for the loan of his horse. "Fair lord," said he, "ye are right welcome, for to day ye have saved both me and my horse, and I see that ye are the best knight in all the world, for in my sight ye have slain the mightiest man and best knight, except thyself, I ever saw." "Sir," said Sir Lancelot, "I thank thee well. And now go into yonder castle, where thou shalt find many noble knights of the Round Table, for I have seen their shields hung on the trees around. On yonder tree alone there are Sir Kay's, Sir Brandel's, Sir Marhaus's, Sir Galin's, and Sir Aliduke's, and many more, and also my two kinsmen's shields, Sir Ector de Maris's and Sir Lionel's. And I pray you greet them all from me, Sir Lancelot of the Lake, and tell them that I bid them help themselves to any treasure that they can find within the castle, and that I pray my brethren Lionel and Ector to go to King Arthur's court and stay there till I come. And by the high feast at Pentecost I must be there. But now I must ride forth with this damsel to fulfil my promise." So as they went, the damsel told him, "Sir, we are now near the place where the foul knight haunteth, who robbeth and distresseth all ladies and gentlewomen travelling past this way, against whom I have sought thy aid." Then they arranged that she would ride on foremost, and Sir Lancelot should follow under cover of the trees by the roadside, and if he saw her come to any mishap, he should ride forth and deal with him that troubled her. And as the damsel rode on at a soft ambling pace, a knight and page burst forth from the roadside and forced the damsel from her horse till she cried out for help. Then came Sir Lancelot rushing through the wood as fast as he might fly, and all the branches of the trees crackled and waved around him. "O thou false knight and traitor to all knighthood!" shouted he, "who taught thee to distress fair ladies thus?" The foul knight answered nothing, but drew out his sword and rode at Sir Lancelot, who threw his spear away and drew his own sword likewise, and struck him such a mighty blow as clave his head down to the throat. "Now hast thou the wages thou long hast earned," said he, and so departed from the damsel. Then for 2 days he rode in a great forest, and had but scanty food and lodging. And on the 3rd day he rode over a long bridge, when suddenly there started up a passing foul churl, and smote his horse across the nose, so that he started and turned back, rearing with pain. "Why ridest thou over here without my leave?" said he. "Why should I not?" said Sir Lancelot. "There is no other way to ride." "Thou shalt not pass by here," cried out the churl, and dashed at him with a great club full of iron spikes, till Sir Lancelot was fain to draw his sword and smite him dead upon the earth. At the end of the bridge was a fair village, and all the people came and cried, "Ah, sir, a worse deed for thyself thou never didst, for thou hast slain the chief porter of the castle yonder." But he let them talk as they pleased, and rode straight forward to the castle. There he alighted, and tied his horse to a ring in the wall, and going in he saw a wide green court, and thought it seemed a noble place to fight in. And as he looked about he saw many people watching him from the doors and windows, making signs of warning, and saying, "Fair knight, thou art unhappy." In the next moment came upon him 2 great giants, well armed save their heads, and with 2 horrible clubs in their hands. Then he put his shield before him, and with it warded off one giant's stroke, and clove the other with his sword from the head downward to the chest. When the first giant saw that, he ran away mad with fear, but Sir Lancelot ran after him, and smote him through the shoulder, and shore him down his back, so that he fell dead. Then he walked onward to the castle hall, and saw a band of 60 ladies and young damsels coming forth, who knelt to him and thanked him for their freedom. "For, sir," said they, The most of us have been prisoners here these 7 years, and have been kept at all manner of work to earn our meat, though we be all great gentlewomen born. Blessed be the time that thou wast born, for never did a knight a deed of greater worship than thou hast this day, and thereto will we all bear witness in all times and places. Tell us, therefore, noble knight, thy name and court, that we may tell them to our friends." And when they heard it, they all cried aloud, "Well may it be so, for we knew that no knight save thou shouldst ever overcome those giants, and many a long day have we sighed for thee, for the giants feared no other name among all knights but thine." Then he told them to take the treasures of the castle as a reward for their grievances, and to return to their homes, and so rode away into many strange and wild countries. And at last, after many days, by chance he came, near the night time, to a fair mansion, wherein he found an old gentlewoman, who gave him and his horse good cheer. And when bedtime was come, his host brought him to a chamber over a gate, and there he unarmed, and went to bed, and fell asleep. But soon thereafter came one riding in great haste, and knocking vehemently at the gate below, which when Sir Lancelot heard, he rose and looked out of the window, and by the moonlight saw 3 knights come riding fiercely after one man, and lashing on him all at once with their swords, while the one knight nobly fought all. Then Sir Lancelot quickly armed himself, and getting through the window, let himself down by a sheet into the midst of them, crying out, "Turn ye on me, ye cowards, and leave fighting with that knight." Then they all left Sir Kay, for the first knight was he, and began to fall upon Sir Lancelot furiously. And when Sir Kay would have come forward to assist him, Sir Lancelot refused, and cried, "Leave me alone to deal with them." And presently, with 6 great strokes, he felled them all. Then they cried out, "Sir knight, we yield us unto thee as a man of might." "I will not take your yielding," said he. "Yield ye to Sir Kay the seneschal, or I will have your lives." "Fair knight," said they, "excuse us in that thing, for we have chased Sir Kay thus far, and should have overcome him but for thee." "Well," said Sir Lancelot, "do as ye will, for ye may live or die, but if ye live ye shall be holden to Sir Kay." Then they yielded to him, and Sir Lancelot commanded them to go unto King Arthur's court at the next Pentecost, and say Sir Kay had sent them prisoners to Queen Guinevere. And this they sware to do upon their swords. Then Sir Lancelot knocked at the gate with his sword hilt, till his hostess came and let him in again, and Sir Kay also. And when the light came, Sir Kay knew Sir Lancelot, and knelt and thanked him for his courtesy and gentleness and kindness. "Sir," said he, "I have done no more than what I ought to do, and ye are welcome. Therefore let us now take rest." So when Sir Kay had supped, they went to sleep, and Sir Lancelot and he slept in the same bed. On the morrow Sir Lancelot rose early, and took Sir Kay's shield and armour, and set forth. When Sir Kay arose, he found Sir Lancelot's armour by his bedside, and his own arms gone. "Now, by my faith," thought he, "I know that he will grieve some knights of our king's court, for those who meet him will be bold to joust with him, mistaking him for me; while I, dressed in his shield and armour, shall surely ride in peace." Then Sir Lancelot, dressed in Sir Kay's apparel, rode long in a great forest, and came at last to a low country full of rivers and fair meadows, and saw a bridge before him, whereon were 3 silk tents of divers colours, and to each tent was hung a white shield, and by each shield stood a knight. So Sir Lancelot went by without speaking a word. And when he had passed, the 3 knights said it was the proud Sir Kay, who thinketh no knight equal to himself, although the contrary is full often proved upon him. "By my faith," said one of them, named Gaunter, "I will ride after and attack him for all his pride, and ye shall watch my speed." Then taking shield and spear, he mounted and rode after Sir Lancelot, and cried, Abide, proud knight, and turn, for thou shalt not pass free." So Sir Lancelot turned, and each one put his spear in rest, and came with all his might against the other. And Sir Gaunter's spear brake short, but Sir Lancelot smote him down, both horse and man. When the other knights saw this, they said, "Yonder is not Sir Kay, but a bigger man." "I dare wager my head," said Sir Gilmere, "yonder knight hath slain Sir Kay, and taken his horse and harness." "Be it so or not," said Sir Reynold, the third brother, "let us now go to our brother Gaunter's rescue. We shall have enough to do to match that knight, for by his stature I believe it is Sir Lancelot or Sir Tristram." Anon they took their horses and galloped after Sir Lancelot, and Sir Gilmere first assailed him, but was smitten down forthwith, and lay stunned on the earth. Then said Sir Reynold, "Sir knight, thou art a strong man, and I believe hast slain my two brothers, wherefore my heart is sore against thee. Yet if I might with honour, I would avoid thee. Nevertheless that cannot be, so keep thyself." And so they hurtled together with all their might, and each man shivered his spear to pieces, and then they drew their swords and lashed out eagerly. And as they fought, Sir Gaunter and Sir Gilmere presently arose and mounted once again, and came down at full tilt upon Sir Lancelot. But when he saw them coming, he put forth all his strength, and struck Sir Reynold off his horse. Then with two other strokes he served the others likewise. Anon Sir Reynold crept along the ground, with his head all bloody, and came towards Sir Lancelot. "It is enough," said Lancelot. "I was not far from thee when thou wast made a knight, Sir Reynold, and know thee for a good and valiant man, and was full loath to slay thee." "Gramercy for thy gentleness," said Sir Reynold. "I and my brethren will straightway yield to thee when we know thy name, for well we know that thou art not Sir Kay." "As for that," said Sir Lancelot, "be it as it may, but ye shall yield to Queen Guinevere at the next feast of Pentecost as prisoners, and say that Sir Kay sent ye." Then they swore to him it should be done as he commanded. And so Sir Lancelot passed on, and the three brethren helped each other's wounds as best they might. Then rode Sir Lancelot forward into a deep forest, and came upon four knights of King Arthur's court under an oak tree, Sir Sagramore, Sir Ector, Sir Gawain, and Sir Ewaine. And when they spied him they thought he was Sir Kay. "Now, by my faith," said Sir Sagramore, "I will prove Sir Kay's might." And taking his spear he rode towards Sir Lancelot. But Sir Lancelot was aware of him, and setting his spear in rest, smote him so sorely that horse and man fell to the earth. "Lo!" cried Sir Ector, "I see by the buffet that knight hath given our fellow he is stronger than Sir Kay. Now will I try what I can do against him." So Sir Ector took his spear and galloped at Sir Lancelot, and Sir Lancelot met him as he came, and smote him through shield and shoulder, so that he fell, but his own spear was not broken. "By my faith," cried Sir Ewaine, "yonder is a strong knight, and must have slain Sir Kay and taken his armour. By his strength I see it will be hard to match him." So saying, he rode towards Sir Lancelot, who met him halfway, and struck him so fiercely that at one blow he overthrew him also. "Now," said Sir Gawain, "will I encounter him." So he took a good spear in his hand, and guarded himself with his shield, and he and Sir Lancelot rode against each other with their horses at full speed, and furiously smote each other on the middle of their shields. But Sir Gawain's spear broke short asunder, and Sir Lancelot charged so mightily upon him that his horse and he both fell, and rolled upon the ground. "Ah," said Sir Lancelot, smiling as he rode away from the four knights, "Heaven give joy to him who made this spear, for never held I better in my hand." But the four knights said to each other, "Truly one spear hath felled us all." "I dare lay my life," said Sir Gawain, "it is Sir Lancelot. I know him by his riding." So they all departed for the court. And as Sir Lancelot rode still in the forest, he saw a black bloodhound running with its head toward the ground, as if it tracked a deer, and following after it, he came to a great pool of blood. But the hound, ever and anon looking behind, ran through a great marsh and over a bridge toward an old manor house. So Sir Lancelot followed, and went into the hall, and saw a dead knight lying there, whose wounds the hound licked. And a lady stood behind him, weeping and wringing her hands, who cried, "O knight, too great is the sorrow which thou hast brought me." "Why say ye so?" replied Sir Lancelot, "for I never harmed this knight, and am full sorely grieved to see thy sorrow." "Nay, sir," said the lady, "I see it is not thou hast slain my husband, for he that truly did that deed is deeply wounded, and shall never more recover." "What is thy husband's name?" "His name," she answered, "was Sir Gilbert, one of the best knights in all the world; but I know not his name who hath slain him." "God send thee comfort," said Sir Lancelot, and departed again into the forest. And as he rode he met with a damsel who knew him, who cried out, "Well found, my lord! I pray ye, of your knighthood, help my brother, who is sore wounded and ceases not to bleed. For he fought this day with Sir Gilbert and slew him, but was himself well nigh slain. And there is a sorceress who dwelleth in a castle hard by, and she this day hath told me that my brother's wound shall never be made whole until I find a knight to go into the Chapel Perilous, and bring from thence a sword and the bloody cloth in which the wounded knight was wrapped." "This is a marvellous thing," said Sir Lancelot; "but what is your brother's name?" "His name, sir," she replied, "is Sir Meliot de Logres." "He is a fellow of the Round Table," said Sir Lancelot, "and truly will I do my best to help him." "Then, sir," said she, "follow this way, and it will bring ye to the Chapel Perilous. I will abide here till God send ye hither again, for if ye speed not, there is no living knight who may achieve that adventure." So Sir Lancelot departed, and when he came to the Chapel Perilous, he alighted and tied his horse to the gate. And as soon as he was within the churchyard, he saw on the front of the chapel many shields of knights whom he had known, turned upside down. Then saw he in the pathway 30 mighty knights, taller than any man whom he had ever seen, all armed in black armour, with their swords drawn, and they gnashed their teeth upon him as he came. But he put his shield before him, and took his sword in hand, ready to do battle with them. And when he would have cut his way through them, they scattered on every side and let him pass. Then he went into the chapel, and saw therein no light but a dim lamp burning. Then he was aware of a corpse in the midst of the chapel, covered with a silken cloth, and so stooped down and cut off a piece of the cloth, whereat the earth beneath him trembled. Then saw he a sword lying by the dead knight, and taking it in his hand he hied him from the chapel. As soon as he was in the churchyard again, all 30 knights cried out to him with fierce voices, "Sir Lancelot, lay that sword from thee, or thou diest." "Whether I live or die," said he, "ye shall fight for it ere ye take it from me." And with that they let him pass. And further on, beyond the chapel, he met a fair damsel, who said, "Sir Lancelot, leave that sword behind thee, or thou diest." "I will not leave it," said Sir Lancelot, "for any asking." "Then, gentle knight," said the damsel, "I pray thee kiss me once." "Nay," said Sir Lancelot, "that God forbid." "Alas!" cried she, "I have lost all my labour, but hadst thou kissed me, thy life's days had been all done." "Heaven save me from thy subtle crafts," said Sir Lancelot, and therewith took his horse and galloped forth. And when he was departed, the damsel sorrowed greatly, and died in 15 days. Her name was Owens the sorceress. Then came Sir Lancelot to Sir Meliot's sister, who, when she saw him, clapped her hands and wept for joy, and took him to the castle hard by, where Sir Meliot was. And when Sir Lancelot saw Sir Meliot, he knew him, though he was pale as ashes for loss of blood. And Sir Meliot, when he saw Sir Lancelot, kneeled to him and cried aloud, "O Lord Sir Lancelot, help me!" And thereupon Sir Lancelot went to him and touched his wounds with the sword, and wiped them with the piece of bloody cloth, and immediately he was as whole as though he had been never wounded. Then was there great joy between them, and Sir Meliot and his sister made Sir Lancelot good cheer. So on the morrow he took his leave, that he might go to King Arthur's court. "For," said he, "it draweth nigh the feast of Pentecost, and there, by God's grace, shall ye then find me." And riding through many strange countries, over marshes and valleys, he came at length before a castle. As he passed by, he heard two little bells ringing, and looking up he saw a falcon flying overhead, with bells tied to her feet, and long strings dangling from them. And as the falcon flew past an elm tree, the strings caught in the boughs, so that she could fly no further. In the meanwhile came a lady from the castle, and cried, "O Sir Lancelot, as thou art the flower of all knights in the world, help me to get my hawk, for she hath slipped away from me, and if she be lost, my lord my husband is so hasty he will surely slay me." "What is thy lord's name?" said Sir Lancelot. "His name," said she, "is Sir Phelot, a knight of the King of Northgales." "Fair lady," said Sir Lancelot, "since you know my name, and require me on my knighthood to help you, I will do what I can to get you your hawk." And thereupon alighting, he tied his horse to the same tree, and prayed the lady to unarm him. So when he was unarmed, he climbed up and reached the falcon, and threw it to the lady. Then suddenly came down out of the wood her husband, Sir Phelot, all armed, with a drawn sword in his hand, and said, "O Sir Lancelot, now have I found thee as I would have thee," and stood at the trunk of the tree to slay him. "Ah, lady," cried Sir Lancelot, "why have ye betrayed me?" "She hath done as I commanded her," said Sir Phelot, "and thine hour is come that thou must die." "It were shame," said Sir Lancelot, "for an armed to slay an unarmed man." "Thou hast no other favour from me," said Sir Phelot. "Alas!" cried Sir Lancelot, "that ever any knight should die weaponless." And looking overhead, he saw a great bough without leaves, and wrenched it off the tree, and suddenly leaped down. Then Sir Phelot struck at him eagerly, thinking to have slain him. But Sir Lancelot put aside the stroke with the bough, and therewith smote him on the side of the head till he fell swooning to the ground, and tearing his sword from out his hands, he shore his neck through from the body. Then did the lady shriek dismally, and swooned as though she would die. But Sir Lancelot put on his armour, and with haste took his horse and departed hence, thanking God he had escaped that peril. And as he rode through a valley among many wild ways, he saw a knight with a drawn sword chasing a lady to slay her, and seeing Sir Lancelot, she cried and prayed to him to come and rescue her. At that he went up, saying, "Fie on thee, knight! Why wilt thou slay this lady? Thou doest shame to thyself and all knights." "What hast thou to do between me and my wife?" replied the knight. "I will slay her in spite of thee." "Thou shalt not harm her," said Sir Lancelot, "till we have first fought together." "Sir," answered the knight, "thou doest ill, for this lady hath betrayed me." "He speaketh falsely," said the lady, "for he is jealous of me without cause, as I shall answer before Heaven. But as thou art named the most worshipful knight in the world, I pray thee of thy true knighthood to save me, for he is without mercy." "Be of good cheer," said Sir Lancelot, "it shall not lie within his power to harm thee." "Sir," said the knight, "I will be ruled as ye will have me." So Sir Lancelot rode between the knight and the lady, and when they had ridden a while, The knight cried out suddenly to Sir Lancelot to turn and see what men they were who came riding after them. And while Sir Lancelot, thinking not of treason, turned to look, the knight with one great stroke smote off the lady's head. Then was Sir Lancelot passing wroth, and cried, "Thou traitor! thou hast shamed me for ever!" And alighting from his horse, he drew his sword to have slain him instantly. But the knight fell on the ground, and clasped Sir Lancelot's knees, and cried out for mercy. "Thou shameful knight," answered Lancelot, "thou mayest have no mercy, for thou showest none. Therefore arise and fight with me." "Nay," said the knight, "I will not rise till thou dost grant me mercy." "Now will I deal fairly by thee," said Sir Lancelot. "I will unarm me to my shirt, and have my sword only in my hand, and if thou canst slay me thou shalt be quit for ever." "That will I never do," said the knight. "Then," answered Sir Lancelot, "take this lady and the head, and bear it with thee, and swear to me upon thy sword never to rest until thou comest to Queen Guinevere." "That will I do," said he. "Now," said Sir Lancelot, "tell me thy name." "It is Pedivere," answered the knight. "In a shameful hour wert thou born," said Sir Lancelot. So Sir Pedivere departed, bearing with him the dead lady and her head. And when he came to Winchester, where the queen was with King Arthur, he told them all the truth, and afterward did great and heavy penance for many years, and became a holy hermit. So 2 days before the feast of Pentecost, Sir Lancelot returned to the court, and King Arthur was full glad of his coming. And when Sir Gawain, Sir Uwaine, Sir Sagramore, and Sir Ector saw him in Sir Kay's armour, they knew well it was he who had smitten them all down with one spear. Anon came all the knights Sir Turquine had taken prisoners, and gave worship and honour to Sir Lancelot. Then Sir Kay told the king how Sir Lancelot had rescued him when he was in near danger of his death. "And," said Sir Kay, "he made the knights yield, not to himself, but me; and by heaven, because Sir Lancelot took my armour and left me his, I rode in peace, and no man would have aught to do with me." Then came the knights who fought with Sir Lancelot at the Long Bridge, and yielded themselves also to Sir Kay, but he said nay, he had not fought with them. "It is Sir Lancelot," said he, "that overcame ye." Next came Sir Meliot de Logres, and told King Arthur how Sir Lancelot had saved him from death. And so all Sir Lancelot's deeds and great adventures were made known; how the 4 sorceress queens had him in prison, how he was delivered by the daughter of King Bagdemagus, and what deeds of arms he did at the tournament between the King of Northgales and King Bagdemagus. And so at that festival Sir Lancelot had the greatest name of any knight in all the world, and by high and low was he the most honoured of all men. End of Chapter 9. Recording by Thomas Rose. Chapter 10, Part 1 of The Legends of King Arthur and His Knights, by James Knowles. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 10 Adventures of Sir Beaumains, or Sir Gareth. Again King Arthur held the feast of Pentecost with all the Table Round, and after his custom sat in the banquet hall before beginning meat, waiting for some adventure. Then came there to the king a squire, and said, "Lord, now may ye go to meat, for here a damsel cometh with some strange adventure." So the king was glad, and sat down to meat. Anon the damsel came in and saluted him, praying him for succour. "What wilt thou?" said the king. "Lord," answered she, "my mistress is a lady of great renown, but is at this time besieged by a tyrant, who will not suffer her to go out of her castle. And because here in thy court the knights are called the noblest in the world,
I come to pray thee for thy succour."
"Where dwelleth your lady?" answered the king. "What is her name, and who is he that hath besieged her?"
"For her name," replied the damsel, "as yet I may not tell it, but she is a lady of worship and great lands. The tyrant that besiegeth her and wasteth her lands is called the Red Knight of the Redlands."
"I know him not," said Arthur. "But I know him, lord," said Sir Gawain, "and he is one of the most perilous knights in all the world. Men say he hath the strength of 7, and from him I myself once hardly escaped with life." "Fair damsel," said the king, "there be here many knights that would gladly do their uttermost to rescue your lady; but unless ye tell me her name, and where she dwelleth, none of my knights shall go with you by my leave." Now there was a stripling at the court called Beaumains, who served in the king's kitchen, a fair youth and of great stature. 12 months before this time he had come to the king, as he sat at meat at Whitsuntide, and prayed 3 gifts of him. And being asked what gifts, he answered, "As for the first gift, I will ask it now, but the other 2 gifts I will ask on this day 12 months, wheresoever ye hold your high feast." Then said King Arthur, "What is thy first request?" "This, lord," said he, "that thou wilt give me meat and drink enough for 12 months from this time. Then will I ask my other 2 gifts." And the king, seeing that he was a goodly youth, and deeming that he was come of honourable blood, had granted his desire, and given him into the charge of Sir Kay, the steward. But Sir Kay scorned and mocked the youth, calling him Beaumains, because his hands were large and fair, and putting him into the kitchen, where he had served for 12 months as a scullion, and in spite of all his churlish treatment, had faithfully obeyed Sir Kay. But Sir Lancelot and Sir Gawain were angered when they saw Sir Kay so churlish to a youth that had so worshipful a bearing, and oft times had they given him gold and clothing. And now at this time came young Beaumains to the king, while the damsel was there, and said, "Lord, now I thank thee well and heartily that I have been 12 months kept in thy kitchen, and have had full sustenance. Now will I ask my 2 remaining gifts." "Ask," said King Arthur, "on my good faith." "These, lord," said he, "shall be my 2 gifts. The one, that thou wilt grant me this adventure of the damsel, for to me of right it belongeth; and the other, that thou wilt bid Sir Lancelot make me a knight, for of him only will I have that honour, and I pray that he may ride after me, and make me a knight when I require him." "Be it as thou wilt," replied the king. But thereupon the damsel was full wroth, and said, "Shall I have a kitchen page for this adventure?" And so she took horse and departed. Then came one to Beaumains and told him that a dwarf with a horse and armour were waiting for him. And all men marvelled whence these things came. But when he was on horseback and armed, scarce any one at the court was a goodlier man than he. And coming into the hall, he took his leave of the king and Sir Gawain, and prayed Sir Lancelot to follow him. So he rode after the damsel, and many of the court went out to see him, so richly arrayed and horsed, yet he had neither shield nor spear. Then Sir Kay cried, "I also will ride after the kitchen boy, and see whether he will obey me now." And taking his horse he rode after him, and said, "Know ye not me, Beaumains?" "Yea," said he, "I know thee for an ungentle knight, therefore beware of me." Then Sir Kay put his spear in rest and ran at him, but Beaumains rushed upon him with his sword in his hand, and therewith, putting aside the spear, struck Sir Kay so sorely in the side that he fell down as if dead. Then he alighted and took his shield and spear, and bade his dwarf ride upon Sir Kay's horse. By this time Sir Lancelot had come up, and Beaumains offering to tilt with him, they both made ready. And their horses came together so fiercely that both fell to the earth full sorely bruised. Then they arose, and Beaumains, putting up his shield before him, offered to fight Sir Lancelot on foot. So they rushed upon each other, striking and thrusting and parrying for the space of an hour, and Lancelot marvelled at the strength of Beaumains, for he fought more like a giant than a man, and his fighting was passing fierce and terrible. So at the last he said, "Fight not so sorely, Beaumains. Our quarrel is not such that we may not now cease." "True," answered Beaumains, "yet it doth me good to feel thy might, though I have not yet proved my uttermost." "By my faith," said Lancelot, "I had as much as I could do to save myself from you unshamed, therefore be in no doubt of any earthly knight." "May I then stand as a proved knight?" said Beaumains. "For that will I be thy warrant," answered Lancelot. "Then I pray thee," said he, "give me the order of knighthood." "First, then, must thou tell me of thy name and kindred," said Sir Lancelot. "If thou wilt tell them to no other, I will tell thee," answered he. "My name is Gareth of Orkney, and I am own brother to Sir Gawain." "Ah!" said Sir Lancelot, "at that I am full glad, for truly I deemed thee to be of gentle blood." So then he knighted Beaumains, and after that they parted company, and Sir Lancelot, returning to the court, took up Sir Kay on his shield, and hardly did Sir Kay escape with his life from the wound Beaumains had given him, but all men blamed him for his ungentle treatment of so brave a knight. Then Sir Beaumains rode forward and soon overtook the damsel, but she said to him in scorn, "Return again, base kitchen page! What art thou but a washer up of dishes?" "Damsel," said he, "say to me what thou wilt, I will not leave thee, for I have undertaken to King Arthur to relieve thy adventure, and I will finish it to the end or die." "Thou finish my adventure!" said she. "Anon thou shalt meet one whose face thou wilt not even dare to look at." "I shall attempt it," answered he. So they rode thus into a wood, and there met them a man fleeing as for his life. "Whither fleest thou?" said Sir Beaumains. "O Lord," he answered, "help me, for in a valley hard by there are 6 thieves who have taken my lord and bound him, and I fear will slay him." "Bring me thither," said Sir Beaumains. So they rode to the place, and Sir Beaumains rushed after the thieves, and smote one at the first stroke so that he died, and then with 2 other blows slew a second and third. Then fled the other 3, and Sir Beaumains rode after them and overtook them, and slew them all. Then he returned and unbound the knight, and the knight thanked him, and prayed him to ride to his castle, where he would reward him. "Sir," answered Sir Beaumains, "I will have no reward of thee, for but this day was I made knight by the most noble Sir Lancelot, and besides I must go with this damsel." Then the knight begged the damsel to rest that night at his castle, so they all rode thither, and ever the damsel scoffed at Sir Beaumains as a kitchen boy, and laughed at him before the knight their host, so that he set his meat before him at a lower table, as though he were not of their company. And on the morrow the damsel and Sir Beaumains took their leave of the knight, and thanking him departed. Then they rode on their way till they came to a great forest, through which flowed a river, and there was but one passage over it, whereat stood 2 knights armed to hinder the way.
"Wilt thou match those 2 knights?" said the damsel to Sir Beaumains, "or return again?"
"I would not return," said he, "though they were 6. Therewith he galloped into the water, and swam his horse into the middle of the stream, and there in the river one of the knights met him, and they brake their spears together, and then drew their swords and smote fiercely at each other. And at the last Sir Beaumains struck the other mightily upon the helm, so that he fell down stunned into the water and was drowned. Then Sir Beaumains spurred his horse on to the land, where instantly the other knight fell on him. And they also brake their spears upon each other, and then drew their swords and fought savagely and long together, and after many blows Sir Beaumains clove through the knight's skull down to the shoulders. Then rode Sir Beaumains to the damsel,
But ever she still scoffed at him, and said, "Alas, that a kitchen page should chance to slay two such brave knights! Thou deemest now that thou hast done a mighty deed, but it is not so, for the first knight's horse stumbled, and thus was he drowned, not by thy strength; and as for the second knight, thou wentest by chance behind him, and didst kill him shamefully." "Damsel," said Sir Beaumains, "say what ye list, I care not, so I may win your lady; and wouldst thou give me but fair language, all my care were past. For whatsoever knights I meet, I fear them not." "Thou shalt see knights that shall abate thy boast, base kitchen knave," replied she. "Yet say I this for thine advantage, for if thou followest me thou wilt be surely slain, since I see all thou doest is but by chance, and not by thy own prowess." "Well, damsel," said he, "say what ye will. Wherever ye go, I will follow." So they rode on until the eventide, and still the damsel evermore kept chiding Sir Beaumains. And came they to a black space of land, whereon was a black hawthorn tree, and on the tree there hung a black hammer, and on the other side was a black shield and spear, and by them a great black horse covered with silk, and hard by sat a knight armed in black armour, whose name was the Knight of the Black Lands. When the damsel saw him, she cried out to Beaumains, "Flee down the valley, for thy horse is not saddled." "Wilt thou for ever deem me coward?" answered he. With that came the Black Knight to the damsel, and said, "Fair damsel, hast thou brought this knight from Arthur's court to be thy champion?" "Not so, fair knight," said she; "he is but a kitchen knave." "Then wherefore cometh he in such array?" said he. "It is a shame that he should bear thee company." "I cannot be delivered from him," answered she, "for in spite of me he rideth with me, and would to Heaven you would put him from me, or now slay him, for he hath slain two knights at the river passage yonder, and done many marvellous deeds through pure mischance." "I marvel," said the Black Knight, "that any man of worship will fight with him." "They know him not," said the damsel, "and think because he rideth with me that he is well born." "Truly he hath a goodly person, and is likely to be a strong man," replied the knight; "but since he is no man of worship, he shall leave his horse and armour with me, for it were a shame for me to do him more harm." When Sir Beaumains heard him speak thus, he said, "Horse or armour gettest thou none of me, Sir knight, save thou winnest them with thy hands. Therefore defend thyself, and let me see what thou canst do." "How sayest thou?" answered the Black Knight. "Now quit this lady also, for it beseemeth not a kitchen knave like thee to ride with such a lady." "I am of higher lineage than thou," said Sir Beaumains, "and will straightway prove it on thy body." Then furiously they drove their horses at each other, and came together as it had been thunder. But the Black Knight's spear brake short, and Sir Beaumains thrust him through the side, and his spear breaking at the head, left its point sticking fast in the Black Knight's body. Yet did the Black Knight draw his sword and smite at Sir Beaumains with many fierce and bitter blows. But after they had fought an hour and more, he fell down from his horse in a swoon, and forthwith died. Then Sir Beaumains lighted down, and armed himself in the Black Knight's armour, and rode on after the damsel. But notwithstanding all his valour, still she scoffed at him, and said, "Away, for thou savourest ever of the kitchen. Alas, that such a knave should by mishap destroy so good a knight! Yet once again I counsel thee to flee, for hard by is a knight who shall repay thee." "It may chance that I am beaten or slain," answered Sir Beaumains; "but I warn thee, fair damsel, that I will not flee away, nor leave thy company or my quest for all that ye can say." Anon, as they rode, they saw a knight come swiftly toward them, dressed all in green, who, calling to the damsel, said, "Is that my brother, the Black Knight, that ye have brought with you?" "Nay, and alas," said she, "this kitchen knave hath slain thy brother through mischance." "Alas!" said the Green Knight, that such a noble knight as he should be slain by a knave's hand." "Traitor!" said he to Sir Beaumains, "thou shalt die for this. Sir Pereard was my brother, and a full noble knight." "I defy thee," said Sir Beaumains, "for I slew him knightly, and not shamefully." Then the Green Knight rode to a thorn whereon hung a green horn, and when he blew 3 notes there came 3 damsels forth, who quickly armed him, and brought him a great horse, and a green shield and spear. Then did they run at one another with their fullest might, and brake their spears asunder, and drawing their swords they closed in fight, and sorely smote and wounded each other with many grievous blows. At last Sir Beaumains' horse jostled against the Green Knight's horse, and overthrew him. Then both alighted, and hurtling together like mad lions, fought a great while on foot. But the damsel cheered the Green Knight, and said, "My lord, why wilt thou let a kitchen knave so long stand up against thee?" Hearing these words he was ashamed, and gave Sir Beaumains such a mighty stroke as clave his shield asunder. When Sir Beaumains heard the damsel's words, and felt that blow, he waxed passing wroth, and gave the Green Knight such a buffet on the helm that he fell on his knees, and with another blow Sir Beaumains threw him on the ground. Then the Green Knight yielded, and prayed him to spare his life. "All thy prayers are in vain," said he, "unless this damsel who came with me pray for thee."
"That will I never do, base kitchen knave," said she.
"Then shall he die," said Beaumains.
"Alas, fair lady," said the Green Knight, "suffer me not to die for a word." "Oh, Sir Knight," cried he to Beaumains, "give me my life, and I will ever do thee homage, and 30 knights who owe me service shall give allegiance to thee."
"All availeth not," answered Sir Beaumains, "unless the damsel ask me for thy life." And thereupon he made as though he would have slain him. Then cried the damsel, "Slay him not, for if thou do thou shalt repent it." "Damsel," said Sir Beaumains, "at thy command he shall obtain his life. Arise, Sir Knight of the green armour, I release thee." Then the Green Knight knelt at his feet, and did him homage with his words.
"Lodge with me this night," said he, "and to morrow will I guide ye through the forest."
So taking their horses they rode to his castle, which was hard by. Yet still did the damsel rebuke and scoff at Sir Beaumains, and would not suffer him to sit at her table.
"I marvel," said the Green Knight to her, "that ye thus chide so noble a knight, for truly I know none to match him. And be sure that whatsoever he appeareth now, he will prove at the end of noble blood and royal lineage."
But of all this would the damsel take no heed, and ceased not to mock at Sir Beaumains. On the morrow they arose and heard mass, and when they had broken their fast, took their horses and rode on their way, the Green Knight conveying them through the forest. Then when he had led them for a while, he said to Sir Beaumains, "My lord, my 30 knights and I shall always be at thy command whensoever thou shalt send for us." "It is well said," replied he, "and when I call upon you, you shall yield yourself and all your knights unto King Arthur."
"That will we gladly do,"
said the Green Knight, and so departed. And the damsel rode on before Sir Beaumains, and said to him,
"Why dost thou follow me, thou kitchen boy? I counsel thee to throw aside thy spear and shield, and flee betimes, for wert thou as mighty as Sir Lancelot or Sir Tristram, thou shouldst not pass a valley near this place, called the Pass Perilous."
"Damsel," answered he, "let him that feareth flee. As for me, it were indeed a shameful thing to turn after so long a journey." As he spake they came upon a tower as white as snow, with mighty battlements and double moats around it, and over the tower gate hung 50 shields of divers colours. Before the tower walls they saw a fair meadow, wherein were many knights and squires in pavilions, for on the morrow there was a tournament at that castle.
Then the lord of the castle, seeing a knight armed at all points, with a damsel and a page, riding towards the tower, came forth to meet them, and his horse and harness, with his shield and spear, were all of a red colour. When he came near Sir Beaumains, and saw his armour all of black, he thought him his own brother, the Black Knight, and so cried aloud, "Brother, what do ye here within these borders?"
"Nay," said the damsel, "it is not thy brother, but a kitchen knave of Arthur's court, who hath slain thy brother, and overcome thy other brother also, the Green Knight."
"Now do I defy thee," cried the Red Knight to Sir Beaumains, and put his spear in rest, and spurred his horse. Then both knights turned back a little space, and ran together with all their might, till their horses fell to the earth. Then with their swords they fought fiercely for the space of 3 hours. Then at last Sir Beaumains overcame his foe and smote him to the ground. Then the Red Knight prayed his mercy, and said, "Slay me not, noble knight, and I will yield to thee with 60 knights that do my bidding."
"All avails not," answered Sir Beaumains, "save this damsel pray me to release thee."
Then did he lift his sword to slay him, but the damsel cried aloud, "Slay him not, Beaumains, for he is a noble knight." Then Sir Beaumains bade him rise up and thank the damsel, which straightway he did, and afterwards invited them to his castle, and made them goodly cheer. But notwithstanding all Sir Beaumains' mighty deeds, the damsel ceased not to revile and chide him, at which the Red Knight marvelled much, and caused his 60 knights to watch Sir Beaumains, that no villainy might happen to him. And on the morrow they heard mass, and broke their fast, and the Red Knight came before Sir Beaumains with his 60 knights, and proffered him homage and fealty.
"I thank thee," answered he, "and when I call upon thee, thou shalt come before my lord King Arthur at his court, and yield yourselves to him."
"That will we surely do," said the Red Knight. So Sir Beaumains and the damsel departed. And as she constantly reviled him and tormented him, he said to her,
"Damsel, ye are discourteous thus always to rebuke me, for I have done you service; and for all your threats of knights that shall destroy me, all they who come lie in the dust before me. Now, therefore, I pray you rebuke me no more till you see me beaten or a recreant, and then bid me go from you."
"There shall soon meet thee a knight who shall repay thee all thy deeds, thou boaster," answered she; "for save King Arthur, he is the man of most worship in the world."
"It will be the greater honour to encounter him," said Sir Beaumains.
Soon after they saw before them a city passing fair, and between them and the city was a meadow newly mown, wherein were many goodly tents.
"Seest thou yonder blue pavilion?" said the damsel to Sir Beaumains. "It is Sir Perseant's, the lord of that great city, whose custom is, in all fair weather, to lie in this meadow and joust with his knights."
And as she spake, Sir Perseant, who had espied them coming, sent a messenger to meet Sir Beaumains, and ask him if he came in war or peace. "Say to thy lord," he answered, "that I care not whether of the twain it be."
So when the messenger gave this reply, Sir Perseant came out to fight with Sir Beaumains, and making ready, they rode their steeds against each other, and when their spears were shivered asunder, they fought with their swords, and for more than 2 hours did they hack and hew at each other, till their shields and hauberks were all dinted with many blows, and they themselves were sorely wounded. And at the last Sir Beaumains smote Sir Perseant on the helm, so that he fell grovelling on the earth. And when he unlaced his helm to slay him, the damsel prayed for his life.
"That will I grant gladly," answered Sir Beaumains, "for it were a pity such a noble knight should die."
"Gramercy," said Sir Perseant, "for now I certainly know it was thou who slewest my brother the Black Knight, Sir Pereard, and overcame my brothers, the Green Knight, Sir Pertolope, and the Red Knight, Sir Perimones; and since thou hast overcome me also, I will do thee homage and fealty, and place at thy command 100 knights to do thy bidding." But when the damsel saw Sir Perseant overthrown, she marvelled greatly at the might of Sir Beaumains, and said,
"What manner of man may ye be? For now am I sure that ye be come of noble blood. And truly never did woman revile knight as I have done thee, and yet ye have ever courteously borne with me, which surely never had been were ye not of gentle blood and lineage."
"Lady," replied Sir Beaumains, "a knight is little worth who may not bear with a damsel, and so whatsoever ye said to me I took no heed, save only that at times when your scorn angered me, it made me all the stronger against those with whom I fought. And thus have ye furthered me in my battles. But whether I be born of gentle blood or no, I have done you gentle service, and peradventure will do better still ere I depart from you."
"Alas!" said she, weeping at his courtesy, "forgive me, fair Sir Beaumains, all that I have missaid and misdone against you."
"With all my heart," said he, "and since you now speak fairly to me, I am passing glad of heart, and methinks I have the strength to overcome whatever knights I shall henceforth encounter." Then Sir Perseant prayed them to come to his pavilion, and set before them wine and spices, and made them great cheer. So they rested that night, and on the morrow the damsel and Sir Beaumains rose and heard mass, and when they had broken their fast they took their leave of Sir Perseant. "Fair damsel," said he, "whither lead ye this night?"
"Sir," answered she, "to the Castle Dangerous, where my sister is besieged by the Knight of the Redlands."
"I know him well," said Sir Perseant, "for the most perilous knight alive, a man without mercy, and with the strength of 7 men. God save thee, Sir Beaumains, from him, and enable thee to overcome him, for the Lady Lyones, whom he besiegeth, is as fair a lady as there liveth in this world."
"Thou sayest truth, sir," said the damsel, "for I am her sister, and men call me Linet, or the Wild Maiden."
"Now I would have thee know," said Sir Perseant to Sir Beaumains, "that the Knight of the Redlands hath kept that siege more than 2 years, and prolongeth the time, hoping that Sir Lancelot, or Sir Tristram, or Sir Lamorak may come and battle with him, for these 3 knights divide between them all knighthood. And thou, if thou mayest match the Knight of the Redlands, shall well be called the 4th knight of the world." "Sir," said Sir Beaumains, "I would fain have that good fame, and truly I am come of great and honourable lineage, and so that you and this fair damsel will conceal it, I will tell you my descent." And when they swore to keep it secret, he told them, "My name is Sir Gareth of Orkney. My father was King Lot, and my mother the Lady Belisent, King Arthur's sister. Sir Gawain, Sir Agravain, and Sir Gaheris are my brethren, and I am the youngest of them all. But as yet King Arthur and the court know me not who I am." When he had thus told them, they both wondered greatly. And the damsel Linet sent the dwarf forward to her sister to tell her of their coming. Then did Dame Lyones inquire what manner of man the knight was who was coming to her rescue, and the dwarf told her all of Sir Beaumains' deeds by the way, how he had overthrown Sir Kay and left him for dead, how he had battled with Sir Lancelot and was knighted of him, how he had fought with and slain the thieves, how he had overcome the 2 knights who kept the river passage, how he had fought with and slain the Black Knight, and how he had overcome the Green Knight, the Red Knight, and last of all the Blue Knight, Sir Perseant. Then was Dame Lyones passing glad, and sent the dwarf back to Sir Beaumains with great gifts, thanking him for his courtesy in taking such a labour on him for her sake, and praying him to be of good heart and courage. And as the dwarf returned, he met the Knight of the Redlands, who asked him whence he came.
"I came here with the sister of my lady of the castle," said the dwarf, "who hath been now to King Arthur's court, and brought a knight with her to take her battle on him."
"Then is her travail lost," replied the knight, "for though she had brought Sir Lancelot, Sir Tristram, Sir Lamorak, or Sir Gawain, I count myself their equal, and who besides shall be so called?" Then the dwarf told the knight what deeds Sir Beaumains had done, but he answered,
"I care not for him, whosoever he be, for I shall shortly overcome him, and give him a shameful death, as to so many others I have done."
Then the damsel Linet and Sir Beaumains left Sir Perseant, and rode on through a forest to a large plain, where they saw many pavilions, and hard by a castle passing fair. But as they came near, Sir Beaumains saw upon the branches of some trees which grew there the dead bodies of 40 knights hanging, with rich armour on them, their shields and swords about their necks, and golden spurs upon their heels. "What meaneth this?" said he, amazed.
"Lose not thy courage, fair sir," replied the damsel, "at this shameful sight, for all these knights came hither to rescue my sister, and when the Knight of the Redlands had overcome them, he put them to this piteous death without mercy, and in such wise will he treat thee also, unless thou bearest thee more valiantly than they."
"Truly he useth shameful customs," said Sir Beaumains, "and it is a marvel that he hath endured so long." So they rode onward to the castle walls, and found them double moated, and heard the sea waves dashing on one side the walls. Then said the damsel,
"See you that ivory horn hanging upon the sycamore tree? The Knight of the Redlands hath hung it there, that any knight may blow thereon, and then will he himself come out and fight with him. But I pray thee sound it not till high noontide, for now it is but daybreak, and till noon his strength increases to the might of 7 men."
"Let that be as it may, fair damsel," answered he, "for were he stronger knight than ever lived, I would not fail him. Either will I defeat him at his strongest, or die knightly on the field." With that he spurred his horse under the sycamore, and blew the ivory horn so eagerly that all the castle rang its echoes. Instantly all the knights who were in the pavilions ran forth, and those within the castle looked out from the windows or above the walls. And the Knight of the Redlands, arming himself quickly in blood red armour, with spear and shield, and horse's trappings of like colour, rode forth into a little valley by the castle walls, so that all in the castle and at the siege might see the battle.
"Be of good cheer,"
said the damsel Linet to Sir Beaumains,
"for thy deadly enemy now cometh, and at yonder window is my lady and sister, Dame Lyones."
"In good sooth," said Sir Beaumains, "she is the fairest lady I have ever seen, and I would wish no better quarrel than to fight for her." With that he looked up to the window, and saw the Lady Lyones, who waved her handkerchief to her sister and to him to cheer them. Then called the Knight of the Redlands to Sir Beaumains, "Leave now thy gazing, Sir knight, and turn to me, for I warn thee that lady is mine." "She loveth none of thy fellowship," he answered; "but know this, that I love her, and will rescue her from thee or die."
"Say ye so?" said the Red Knight. "Take ye no warning from those knights that hang on yonder trees?"
"For shame that thou so boastest," said Sir Beaumains. "Be sure that sight hath raised a hatred for me that will not lightly be put out, and given me not fear but rage."
"Sir knight, defend thyself," said the Knight of the Redlands, "for we shall talk no longer."
Then did they put their spears in rest, and came together at the fullest speed of their horses, and smote each other in the midst of their shields, so that their horses' harnesses sundered by the shock, and they fell to the ground. And both lay there so long time, stunned, that many deemed their necks were broken. And all men said the strange knight was a strong man and a noble jouster, for none had ever yet so matched the Knight of the Redlands. Then in a while they rose, and putting up their shields before them, drew their swords and fought with fury, running at each other like wild beasts, now striking such buffets that both reeled backwards, now hewing at each other till they shore the harness off in pieces, and left their bodies naked and unarmed. And thus they fought till noon was past, when for a time they rested to get breath, so sorely staggering and bleeding that many who beheld them wept for pity. Then they renewed the battle, sometimes rushing so furiously together that both fell to the ground, and anon changing swords in their confusion. Thus they endured, and lashed, and struggled until eventide, and none who saw knew which was the likeliest to win, for though the Knight of the Redlands was a wily and subtle warrior, his subtlety made Sir Beaumains wilier and wiser too. So once again they rested for a little space, and took their helms off to find breath. But when Sir Beaumains' helm was off, he looked up to Dame Lyonesse, where she leaned gazing and weeping from her window, and when he saw the sweetness of her smiling, all his heart was light and joyful, and starting up, he bade the Knight of the Redlands make ready. Then did they lace their helms and fight together yet afresh, as though they had never fought before, and at the last the Knight of the Redlands with a sudden stroke smote Sir Beaumains on the hand, so that his sword fell from it, and with a second stroke upon the helm he drove him to the earth. Then cried aloud the damsel Linet, "Alas, Sir Beaumains, see how my sister weepeth to behold thee fallen." And when Sir Beaumains heard her words, he sprang upon his feet with strength, and leaping to his sword, he caught it, and with many heavy blows pressed so sorely on the Knight of the Redlands, that in the end he smote his sword from out his hand, and with a mighty blow upon the head hurled him upon the ground. Then Sir Beaumains unlaced his helm, and would have straightway slain him, but the Knight of the Redlands yielded and prayed for mercy. "I may not spare thee," answered he, "because of the shameful death which thou hast given so many noble knights." "Yet hold thy hand, Sir Knight," said he, "and hear the cause. I loved once a fair damsel, whose brother was slain, as she told me, by a knight of Arthur's court, either Sir Lancelot or Sir Gawain, and she prayed me, as I truly loved her, and by the faith of my knighthood, to labour daily in deeds of arms, till I should meet with him, and to put all knights of the Round Table whom I should overcome to a villainous death. And this I swore to her." Then prayed the earls and knights and barons who stood round Sir Beaumains to spare the Red Knight's life. "Truly," replied he, "I am loath to slay him, notwithstanding he hath done such shameful deeds. And inasmuch as what he did was done to please his lady, and to gain her love, I blame him less. And for your sakes I will release him, but on this agreement only shall he hold his life, that straightway he depart into the castle, and yield him to the lady there, and make her such amends as she shall ask for all the trespass he hath done upon her lands, and afterward that he shall go unto King Arthur's court, and ask the pardon of Sir Lancelot and Sir Gawain for all the evil he hath done against them." "All this, Sir Knight, I swear to do," said the Knight of the Redlands, and therewith he did him homage and fealty. Then came the damsel Linet to Sir Beaumains and the Knight of the Redlands, and disarmed them, and staunched their wounds. And when the Knight of the Redlands had made amends for all his trespasses, he departed for the court. End of Chapter 10, Part 1. Recording by Thomas Rose. Chapter 10, Part 2. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Then Sir Beaumains, being healed of his wounds, armed himself, and took his horse and spear, and rode straight to the castle of Dame Lyonesse, for greatly he desired to see her. But when he came to the gate, they closed it fast, and pulled the drawbridge up. And as he marvelled thereat, he saw the Lady Lyonesse standing at a window, who said, "Go thy way as yet, Sir Beaumains, for thou shalt not wholly have my love until thou be among the worthiest knights of all the world. Go, therefore,
and labour yet in arms for 12 months more, and then return to me." "Alas, fair lady," said Sir Beaumains, "I have scarce deserved this of thee, for sure I am that I have bought thy love with all the best blood in my body." "Be not aggrieved, fair knight," said she, "for none of thy service is forgot or lost. 12 months will soon be passed in noble deeds, and trust that to my death I shall love thee and not another." And with that she turned and left the window. So Sir Beaumains rode away from the castle very sorrowful at heart, and rode he knew not whither, and lay that night in a poor man's cottage. On the morrow he went forward, and came at noon to a broad lake, and thereby he alighted, being very sad and weary, and rested his head upon his shield, and told his dwarf to keep watch while he slept. Now as soon as he had departed, the Lady Lyonesse repented, and greatly longed to see him back, and asked her sister many times of what lineage he was, but the damsel would not tell her, being bound by her oath to Sir Beaumains, and said his dwarf best knew. So she called Sir Gringamors, her brother, who dwelt with her, and prayed him to ride after Sir Beaumains till he found him sleeping, and then take his dwarf away and bring him back to her. Anon Sir Gringamors departed, and rode till he came to Sir Beaumains, and found him as he lay sleeping by the waterside. Then stepping stealthily behind the dwarf, he caught him in his arms and rode off in haste, and though the dwarf cried loudly to his lord for help, and woke Sir Beaumains, yet though he rode full quickly after him, he could not overtake Sir Gringamors. When Dame Lyonesse saw her brother come back, she was passing glad of heart, and forthwith asked the dwarf his master's lineage.
"He is a king's son," said the dwarf, "and his mother is King Arthur's sister. His name is Sir Gareth of Orkney, and he is brother to the good knight Sir Gawain. But I pray you suffer me to go back to my lord, for truly he will never leave this country till he have me again."
But when the Lady Lyonesse knew her deliverer was come of such kingly stock, she longed more than ever to see him again. Now as Sir Beaumains rode in vain to rescue his dwarf, he came to a fair green road, and met a poor man of the country, and asked him had he seen a knight on a black horse, riding with a dwarf of a sad countenance behind him. "Yea," said the man, "I met with such a knight an hour agone, and his name is Sir Gringamors. He liveth at a castle 2 miles from hence. But he is a perilous knight, and I counsel ye not to follow him, save ye bear him good will." Then Sir Beaumains followed the path which the poor man showed him, and came to the castle, and riding to the gate in great anger, he drew his sword and cried aloud, "Sir Gringamors, thou traitor! Deliver me my dwarf again, or by my knighthood it shall be ill for thee." Then Sir Gringamors looked out of a window and said, "Sir Gareth of Orkney, leave thy boasting words, for thou wilt not get thy dwarf again." But the Lady Lyonesse said to her brother, "Nay, brother, I will that he have his dwarf, for he hath done much for me, and delivered me from the Knight of the Redlands, and well do I love him above all other knights." So Sir Gringamors went down to Sir Gareth, and cried him mercy, and prayed him to alight and take good cheer. Then he alighted, and his dwarf ran to him, and when he was in the hall came the Lady Lyonesse, dressed royally like a princess, and Sir Gareth was right glad at heart when he saw her. Then she told him how she had made her brother take away his dwarf and bring him back to her. And then she promised him her love, and faithfully to cleave to him and none other all the days of her life. And so they plighted their troth to each other. Then Sir Gringamors prayed him to sojourn at the castle, which willingly he did. "For," said he, "I have promised to quit the court for 12 months, though sure I am that in the meanwhile I shall be sought and found by my lord King Arthur, and many others." So he sojourned long at the castle. Anon the knights, Sir Perseant, Sir Perimones, and Sir Pertolope,
whom Sir Gareth had overthrown, went to King Arthur's court with all the knights who did them service, and told the king they had been conquered by a knight of his named Beaumains. And as they yet were talking, it was told the king there came another great lord with 500 knights, who, entering in, did homage, and declared himself to be the Knight of the Redlands. "But my true name," said he, "is Ironside, and I am hither sent by one Sir Beaumains, who conquered me, and charged me to yield unto your grace." "Thou art welcome," said King Arthur, "for thou hast been long a foe to me and mine, and truly I am much beholden to the knight who sent thee. And now, Sir Ironside, if thou wilt amend thy life and hold of me, I will entreat thee as a friend, and make thee Knight of the Round Table, but thou mayest no more be a murderer of noble knights." Then the Knight of the Redlands knelt to the king, and told him of his promise to Sir Beaumains to use nevermore such shameful customs, and how he had so done but at the prayer of a lady whom he loved. Then knelt he to Sir Lancelot and Sir Gawain, and prayed their pardon for the hatred he had borne them. But the king and all the court marvelled greatly who Sir Beaumains was. "For," said the king, "he is a full noble knight." Then said Sir Lancelot, "Truly he is come of honourable blood, else had I not given him the order of knighthood, but he charged me that I should conceal his secret." Now as they talked thus, it was told King Arthur that his sister, the Queen of Orkney, was come to the court with a great retinue of knights and ladies. Then was there great rejoicing, and the king rose and saluted his sister, and her sons Sir Gawain, Sir Agravain, and Sir Gaheris knelt before her and asked her blessing, for during 15 years last past they had not seen her. Anon she said, "Where is my youngest son, Sir Gareth? For I know that he was here a 12-month with you, and that ye made a kitchen knave of him." Then the king and all the knights knew that Sir Beaumains and Sir Gareth were the same. "Truly," said the king, "I knew him not." "Nor I," said Sir Gawain and both his brothers. Then said the king, "God be thanked, fair sister, that he is proved as worshipful a knight as any now alive, and by the grace of Heaven he shall be found forthwith, if he be anywhere within these 7 realms." Then said Sir Gawain and his brethren, "Lord, if ye will give us leave, we will go seek him." But Sir Lancelot said, "It were better that the king should send a messenger to Dame Lyones, and pray her to come hither with all speed, and she will counsel where ye shall find him." "It is well said," replied the king, and sent a messenger quickly unto Dame Lyones. When she heard the message, she promised that she would come forthwith, and told Sir Gareth what the messenger had said, and asked him what to do. "I pray you," said he, "tell them not where I am, but when my lord King Arthur asketh for me, advise him thus, that he proclaim a tournament before this castle on Assumption Day, and that the knight who proveth best shall win yourself and all your lands." So the Lady Lyones departed and came to King Arthur's court, and there was right nobly welcomed. But when they asked her where Sir Gareth was, she said she could not tell. "But, lord," said she, "with thy good will, I will proclaim a tournament before my castle on the feast of the Assumption, whereof the prize shall be myself and all my lands. Then, if it be proclaimed that you, lord, and your knights will be there, I will find knights on my side to fight you and yours, and thus am I sure ye will hear tidings of Sir Gareth." "Be it so done," replied the king. So Sir Gareth sent messengers privily to Sir Perseant and Sir Ironsides, and charged them to be ready on the day appointed, with their companies of knights, to aid him and his party against the king. And when they were arrived, he said, "Now be ye well assured that we shall be matched with the best knights of the world, and therefore must we gather all the good knights we can find." So proclamation was made throughout all England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and Cornwall, and in the out isles and other countries, that at the feast of the Assumption of our Lady next coming, all knights who came to joust at Castle Perilous should make choice whether they would side with the king or with the castle. Then came many good knights on the side of the castle, Sir Epinogris, the son of the king of Northumberland, and Sir Palomides the Saracen, and Sir Grumor Grumorsum, a good knight of Scotland, and Sir Brian des Isles, a noble knight, and Sir Carados of the Tower Dolorous, and Sir Tristram, who as yet was not a knight of the Round Table, and many others. But none among them knew Sir Gareth, for he took no more upon him than any mean person. And on King Arthur's side there came the King of Ireland, and the King of Scotland, and the noble prince Sir Galahaut, Sir Gawain and his brothers Sir Agravain and Sir Gaheris, Sir Uwaine, Sir Tor, Sir Percival, Sir Lamorak, Sir Lancelot also and his kindred, Sir Lionel, Sir Ector, Sir Bors, and Sir Bedivere, likewise Sir Kay, and the most part of the Table Round. The two queens also, Queen Guinevere and the Queen of Orkney, Sir Gareth's mother, came with the king. So there was a great array both within and without the castle, with all manner of feasting and minstrelsy. Now before the tournament began, Sir Gareth privily prayed Dame Lyones, Sir Gringamors, Sir Ironside, and Sir Perseant, that they would in no wise disclose his name, nor make more of him than any common knight. Then said Dame Lyones,
"Dear lord, I pray thee take this ring, which hath the power to change the wearer's clothing into any colour he may will, and guardeth him from any loss of blood. But give it me again, I pray thee, when the tournament is done, for it greatly increaseth my beauty whensoever I wear it."
"Gramercy, mine own lady," said Sir Gareth, "I wished for nothing better, for now I may be certainly disguised as long as I will." Then Sir Gringamors gave Sir Gareth a bay courser that was a passing good horse, with sure armour, and a noble sword won by his father from a heathen tyrant, and then every knight made him ready for the tournament. So on the day of the Assumption, when mass and matins were said, the heralds blew their trumpets and sounded for the tourney. Anon came out the knights of the castle and the knights of King Arthur, and matched themselves together. Then Sir Epinogris, son of the King of Northumberland, a knight of the castle, encountered Sir Uwaine, and both broke off their spears short in their hands. Then came Sir Palomides from the castle, and met Sir Gawain, and they so heartily smote each other that both knights and horses fell to the earth. Then Sir Tristram from the castle encountered with Sir Bedivere, and smote him to the earth, horse and man. Then the Knight of the Redlands and Sir Gareth met with Sir Bors and Sir Bleoberis, and the Knight of the Redlands and Sir Bors smote together so hard that their spears burst, and their horses fell grovelling to the ground. And Sir Bleoberis brake his spear upon Sir Gareth, but himself was hurled upon the ground. When Sir Galihodin saw that, he bade Sir Gareth keep him, but Sir Gareth lightly smote him to the earth. Then Sir Galihud got a spear to avenge his brother, but was served in a like manner. And Sir Dinadam and his brother La Cote Male Taile, and Sir Sagramor le Desirous, and Dodinus le Savage, he bore down all with one spear. When King Anguish of Ireland saw this, he marvelled what that knight could be, who seemed at one time green and at another blue, for so at every course he changed his colour, that none might know him. Then he ran towards him and encountered him, and Sir Gareth smote the king from his horse, saddle and all. And in a like manner he served the King of Scotland, and King Urience of Gore, and King Bagdemagus. Then Sir Galahaut, the noble prince, cried out, "Knight of the many colours, thou hast jousted well. Now make thee ready to joust with me." When Sir Gareth heard him, he took a great spear and met him swiftly, and the prince's spear broke off, But Sir Gareth smote him on the left side of the helm, so that he reeled here and there, and had fallen down had not his men recovered him. "By my faith," said King Arthur, "that knight of the many colours is a good knight. I pray thee, Sir Lancelot du Lake, encounter with him." "Lord," said Sir Lancelot, "by thy leave I will forbear. I find it in my heart to spare him at this time, for he hath done enough work for one day, and when a good knight doth so well, it is no knightly part to hinder him from this honour. And peradventure his quarrel is here to day, and he may be the best beloved of the Lady Lyonesse of all that be here, for I see well that he paineth and forceth himself to do great deeds. Therefore, as for me, this day he shall have the honour, for though I were able to put him from it, I would not." "You speak well and truly," said the king. Then after the tilting they drew swords, and there began a great tournament, and there Sir Lancelot did marvellous deeds of arms. For first he fought with both Sir Tristram and Sir Carados, albeit they were the most perilous in all the world. Then came Sir Gareth and put them asunder, but would not smite a stroke against Sir Lancelot, for by him he had been knighted. Anon Sir Gareth's helm had need of mending, and he rode aside to see to it, and to drink water, for he was sore athirst with all his mighty feats of strength. And while he drank, his dwarf said to him, "Give me your ring, lest ye lose it while ye drink." So Sir Gareth took it off, and when he had finished drinking he rode back eagerly to the field, and in his haste forgot to take the ring again. Then all the people saw that he wore yellow armour, and King Arthur told a herald, "Ride and espy the cognizance of that brave knight, for I have asked many who he is, and none can tell me." Then the herald rode near, and saw written round about his helmet in letters of gold, "Sir Gareth of Orkney." And instantly the herald cried his name aloud, and all men pressed to see him. But when he saw he was discovered, he pushed with haste through all the crowd, and cried to his dwarf, "Boy, thou hast beguiled me foully in keeping my ring. Give it me again, that I may be hidden." And as soon as he had put it on, his armour changed again, and no man knew where he had gone. Then he passed forth from the field, but Sir Gawain, his brother, rode after him. And when Sir Gareth had ridden far into the forest, he took off his ring and sent it back by the dwarf to the Lady Lyonesse, praying her to be true and faithful to him while he was away. Then rode Sir Gareth long through the forest till night fell, and coming to a castle he went up to the gate and prayed the porter to let him in. But churlishly he answered that he should not lodge there. Then said Sir Gareth, "Tell thy lord and lady that I am a knight of King Arthur's court, and for his sake I pray their shelter." With that the porter went to the duchess who owned the castle. "Let him in straightway," cried she; "for the king's sake he shall not be harbourless," and went down to receive him. When Sir Gareth saw her coming, he saluted her, and said, "Fair lady, I pray you give me shelter for this night, and if there be any champion or giant with whom I must needs fight, spare me till to morrow, when I and my horse shall have rested, for we are full weary."
"Sir knight," she said, "thou speakest boldly, for the lord of this castle is a foe to King Arthur and his court, and if thou wilt rest here to night, thou must agree that wheresoever thou mayest meet my lord, thou must yield to him as prisoner."
"What is thy lord's name, lady?" said Sir Gareth.
"The Duke de la Rowse," said she.
"I will promise thee," said he, "to yield to him if he promise to do me no harm; but if he refuse, I will release myself with my sword and spear."
"It is well,"
said the duchess, and commanded the drawbridge to be let down. So he rode into the hall and alighted, and when he had taken off his armour, the duchess and her ladies made him passing good cheer, and after supper his bed was made in the hall, and there he rested that night. On the morrow he rose and heard mass, and having broken his fast, took his leave and departed. And as he rode past a certain mountain, there met him a knight named Sir Bendelaine, and cried unto him, "Thou shalt not pass unless thou joust with me, or be my prisoner." "Then shall we joust," replied Sir Gareth. So they let their horses run at full speed, and Sir Gareth smote Sir Bendelaine through his body so sorely that he scarcely reached his castle ere he fell dead. And as Sir Gareth presently came by the castle, Sir Bendelaine's knights and servants rode out to avenge their lord, and 20 of them fell on him at once, although his spear was broken. But drawing his sword, he put his shield before him, and though they brake their spears upon him one and all, and sorely pressed on him, yet ever he defended himself like a noble knight. Anon, finding they could not overcome him, they agreed to slay his horse, and having killed it with their spears, they set upon Sir Gareth as he fought on foot. But every one he struck he slew, and drave at them with fearful blows, till he had slain them all but 4, who fled. Then taking the horse of one of those who lay there dead, he rode upon his way. Anon he came to another castle, and heard from within a sound as of many women moaning and weeping. Then said he to a page who stood without, "What noise is this I hear?"
"Sir knight," said he, "there be within 30 ladies, the widows of 30 knights, who have been slain by the lord of this castle. He is called the Brown Knight without pity, and is the most perilous knight living, wherefore I warn thee to flee."
"That will I never do," said Sir Gareth, "for I fear him not."
Then the page saw the Brown Knight coming, and said to Gareth, "Lo, my lord is near."
So both knights made them ready, and galloped their horses towards each other, and the Brown Knight brake his spear upon Sir Gareth's shield, but Sir Gareth smote him through the body, so that he fell dead. At that he rode into the castle, and told the ladies he had slain their foe. Then were they right glad of heart, and made him all the cheer they could, and thanked him out of measure. But on the morrow, as he went to mass, he found the ladies weeping in the chapel upon divers tombs that were there, and he knew that in those tombs their husbands lay. Then he bade them be comforted, and with noble and high words he desired and prayed them all to be at Arthur's court on the next feast of Pentecost. So he departed, and rode past a mountain, where was a goodly knight waiting, who said to him, "Abide, Sir knight, and joust with me."
"How are ye named?" said Sir Gareth.
"I am the Duke de la Rose," answered he.
"In good sooth, then," said Sir Gareth, "not long ago I lodged within your castle, and there promised I would yield to you whenever we might meet."
"Art thou that proud knight," said the duke, "who was ready to fight with me? Guard thyself, therefore, and make ready."
So they ran together, and Sir Gareth smote the duke from his horse. Then they alighted and drew their swords, and fought full sorely for the space of an hour, and at the last Sir Gareth smote the duke to the earth, and would have slain him, but he yielded. "Then must ye go," said Sir Gareth, "to my lord King Arthur at the next feast of Pentecost, and say that I, Sir Gareth, sent ye."
"As ye will be it,"
said the duke, and gave him up his shield for pledge. And as Sir Gareth rode alone, he saw an armed knight coming towards him, and putting the duke's shield before him, he rode fast to tilt with him, and so they ran together as it had been thunder, and brake their spears upon each other. Then fought they fiercely with their swords, and lashed together with such mighty strokes that blood ran to the ground on every side. And after they had fought together for 2 hours and more, it chanced the damsel Linet passed that way, and when she saw them she cried out, "Sir Gawain and Sir Gareth, leave your fighting, for ye are brethren."
At that they threw away their shields and swords, and took each other in their arms, and wept a great while ere they could speak. And each gave to the other the honour of the battle, and there was many a kind word between them. Then said Sir Gawain, "O my brother, for your sake have I had great sorrow and labour. But truly I would honour you though ye were not my brother, for ye have done great worship to King Arthur and his court, and sent more knights to him than any of the Table Round, except Sir Lancelot." Then the damsel Linet staunched their wounds, and their horses being weary, she rode her palfrey to King Arthur, and told him of this strange adventure. When she had told her tidings, the king himself mounted his horse, and bade all come with him to meet them. So a great company of lords and ladies went forth to meet the brothers, and when King Arthur saw them he would have spoken hearty words, but for gladness he could not. And both Sir Gawain and Sir Gareth fell down at their uncle's knees and did him homage, and there was passing great joy and gladness among them all. Then the king said to the damsel Linet, "Why cometh not the Lady Lyonesse to visit her knight Sir Gareth, who hath had such travail for her love?"
"She knoweth not, my lord, that he is here," replied the damsel, "for surely she desireth greatly to see him."
"Go ye and bring her hither," said the king. So the damsel rode to tell her sister where Sir Gareth was, and when she heard it she rejoiced full heartily, and came with all the speed she could. And when Sir Gareth saw her, there was great joy and comfort between them. Then the king asked Sir Gareth whether he would have that lady for his wife. "My lord," replied Sir Gareth, "know well that I love her above all ladies living." "Now, fair lady," said King Arthur, "what say ye?"
"Most noble king," she answered, "my lord Sir Gareth is my first love, and shall be my last; and if I may not have him for my husband, I will have none."
Then said the king to them, "Be well assured that for my crown I would not be the cause of parting your two hearts." Then was high preparation made for the marriage, for the king desired it should be at the Michaelmas next following, at Kinkenadon by the sea. So Sir Gareth sent out messages to all the knights whom he had overcome in battle, that they should be there upon his marriage day. Therefore at the next Michaelmas came a goodly company to Kinkenadon by the sea, and there did the Archbishop of Canterbury marry Sir Gareth and the Lady Lyonesse with all solemnity. And all the knights whom Sir Gareth had overcome were at the feast, and every manner of revels and games was held, with music and minstrelsy, and there was a great jousting for 3 days. But because of his bride, the king would not suffer Sir Gareth to joust. Then did King Arthur give great lands and fair, with store of gold, to Sir Gareth and his wife, that so they might live royally together to their lives' end. End of Chapter 10. Recording by Thomas Rose.